Dr. Nugent, so we talked earlier last week, and I'd really like to really expand on that power of wellness and what that means for people, because it's easy to say in words, but in reality, it's difficult. So let's go back to the beginning. You know, in our wellness group this week, I posted that I often pinch myself that you chose us. You know, that President Emeritus of the American Naturopathic Association, that's priceless. And you know, some naturopaths I still talk to still just don't get nutritional glycans. So let's go back to the beginning. How were you introduced to Manatech, and why did you choose us?
To your question, when I was in practice, of course, it's quite normal for people who are involved in network marketing associations to think, well, I'm going to sign up the doctor in my area who's got the most patients or the best reputation or whatever. And so I was constantly having people come to my office and telling me that they had the greatest product, and they all sincerely believed it. On occasion, I would test some of these products as a courtesy. And I was introduced to Manatech through a Manatech associate who brought in some of the glyconutrient complex that we love, that we all call ambertose. And at first, I was pretty reluctant because I just did not like this individual's approach. I'm a scientist and I'm an objective thinker, so I want to see evidence. And when you say things like magic, miracles, and stuff like that, it doesn't really work well with a scientist. And Sharon, you're a nurse, and so you know where I'm coming from. But I decided that I would give it a try, and I had a lot of patients that I treated that I paid for everything for them. They were indigent because, the systems are different in every country, of course, but at that time in the U.S., if you didn't have private health insurance, you just didn't get any help. So I took it upon myself to treat as many people who were indigent as I possibly could afford to do, as I could take out of the budget. And periodically, I would ask them, would it be all right with you if I give you this dietary supplement? Because I always paid for whatever supplements they needed, their medical tests. I paid for pharmaceuticals if they needed them. It was I was volunteering to take care of them and give them what others were not giving them. So I would ask them, I said, would you mind if I give you this dietary supplement and allow me to test you once a week or once every 2 weeks, depends on what we were looking at. And of course, they would always say yes. And this allowed me to gather a great deal of data and to test a lot of products. And in fact, Sharon, as you know, I tested more than 6,000 products during my clinical career. So when I was testing this glyconutrient stuff that was supposed to be magic and miracles and all that, what I was astounded by was the fact that it actually seemed to be working. And unlike most supplements for most companies, I could actually document changes, and the changes were extraordinary. And what was even more extraordinary, Sharon, was that the changes that were occurring were not in a single category. And I say this specifically to you, Sharon, as a nurse, because in the health professions, we're taught that one medication works for one type of problem and another medication works for another type of problem. But you don't have crossovers. You don't have one medication that works for 10 problems. That just doesn't work, right? But for some reason, this stuff it seemed to be helping people in a variety of situations that were unrelated in a diagnostic sense. I mean, they were in different categories. And I was very impressed by this. So I kept testing it more, and I had 2 medical doctors on my staff, and I had them testing it with their patients. And eventually I got in contact with Manatech to try and find out what the mechanism of action was. And I was surprised that the senior medical director didn't know. He said, we don't know why it works. We don't know how it works. We just know it works. And I mean, that's how young the research was. Of course, we now know how it works. We now know a great deal more about how it works. But that's kind of how I got started with it. And I saw such success with so many patients in so many different categories that I was wrestling with myself thinking, well, what's more important? Is it more important to take this message to people around the world, or is it more important for me to continue to have, a nice, wealthy, healthy life where I own my own clinic and everything's great? So, which do I do? And I made the choice to retire from my practice and to take this message to people around the world.
That was what a great choice, especially for us, selfishly. And it's been a baptism of fire in many ways, hasn't it, in these last 20 some years, Dr. Nugent? But I'm so grateful that you hung in there, and it really benefits all of us. So, what's happening in the world now that we so badly need this technology and need to supplement?
Yeah, well, that is probably the most important question, Sharon. What's going on in the world now, most people are simply not aware of. And of course, and probably many of the people on this call know, although I'm sure not everyone knows. I wrote a book back in 2004 called How to Survive on a Toxic Planet. And at that time, there weren't a lot of people really keyed into this idea, not like there are today, where everybody talks about planetary health and pollution and carbon emissions and all that today. But in 2004, that was not the case. So I was a little ahead of my time with that. So here's kind of what's been going on. Up through most of human history, air pollution, water pollution were pretty much the same century after century. We know this from looking at ice core samples in the Antarctic and also in certain areas of the Arctic. We can tell what was in the air at different points in time through centuries past. So we know that air pollution and water pollution really didn't vary much throughout the vast majority of human history. But then we get into around 1930-ish, and right around that time is when the age of synthetic chemistry actually began. So we now have in our environment at least, and I say at least because we actually don't know what the upper end of this number is. So there are at least 84,000 chemicals in Earth's environment today, in the water and in the air, that did not exist on planet Earth at all before the year 1930. And that's just the beginning of it. According to scientists from the American Environmental Protection Agency, and they found this out purely by accident. They weren't looking for it, but a lot of stuff in science happens by accident, really. So, purely by accident, they find that when two synthetic compounds combine in water, it makes a brand new compound that no one ever intended to make. So, what they said was there's absolutely no way to know how many thousands or perhaps hundreds of thousands of chemical compounds there are now on this planet that are not natural to planet Earth. Now, these are things that we breathe. These are things that we drink. These are things that will get into our food supply. And this affects human health in ways that human health has never been affected before throughout human history. In fact, I was just reading a study last week. Now, this was about the US, but there are studies really from cities all over the world now talking about toxic chemicals. Now, the chemicals are in very, very minute parts. We're talking parts per billion. So nobody's going to have a glass of water and drop dead 5 minutes later. But the point is, there are toxins even in our tap water coming out of your faucet in the kitchen, which are known to be harmful to humans and our pets, for that matter. And it's not being filtered out of our sewage filtration systems. It's not being taken out. I mean, it's getting to the point now where human beings are under so much immune stress that it's no wonder that the planet is becoming less healthy literally every year. I mean, no one is going to see a front page headline that says, guess what? The Earth's population's getting healthier this month. No, sorry, you're not going to see that. It's quite the opposite. And you know, we see this in the news all the time. There's this new virus and this new bacteria, and people aren't even aware of the pollution. I'll give you an example of one particular chemical. There's one particular chemical that it's got to be 2,500 times above safe limits before the human sense of smell can detect that it's even present. And usually this is waterborne. So the point is, the vast majority of chemicals that are in the air and in the water are things that you cannot see, taste, or smell. But they are just a little bit at a time, every day, just a little bit at a time, working against your health. So this is a time, Sharon, and I know that you're well aware of this, but for everyone listening on the call, we now live in a time where it's no longer enough to simply eat a healthy diet. I want you all to eat the healthiest possible diet, which should be very heavy in vegetables, lighter side on fruits, and adequate amounts of protein. And that means a minimum of 46 grams of protein for the average woman and a minimum of 56 grams of protein for the average man every day just to maintain muscle mass. That's important. So I want you to eat right, and I want you to be active, and I want you to exercise. But understand, folks, things have changed. Our environment's not the same as it used to be. And we really, if we're going to be smart about our health, we need to be looking at the best and most focused dietary supplement health program. This is the time where it's just not a luxury anymore.
And, we didn't talk about this question, but, it's topical right now with the global, well, I use hysteria, so that's my personal bias on global pandemics. But having said that, whether it's hysteria or not, with the risk of these stealth pathogens and things that are changing in the world, part of the problem is we're so immune incompetent today because of some of the reasons you've just outlined. The bottom line is it's more important than ever to have the healthiest possible immune system.
Yes, you're quite right. And there are actual multiple factors that I'm sure that some people on the call are not aware of. So, I just spoke of the air and water pollution and various chemicals that affect our immune system. And that is actually, I mean, it's been documented in all the tests that have been done worldwide that these things do affect the efficiency of the human immune system. There's no question about that. Then on top of that, you have psychological stress, which is also shown in scientific study to reduce your efficiency of your immune system. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're alive today in 2020 and you're breathing here on planet Earth, you're under stress, okay? I mean, you're under stress from the environment, but you're under psychological stress. And I pointed this out. One of our regulatory people didn't like this statement very much, but I don't think she understood my thought process behind the statement. So hopefully everyone will catch this. We live in a time which is so different from that of our ancestors, even entirely different when it comes to psychological stress than it was during the mid or even late 20th century. Because now we have a 24-hour news cycle. We have people who cannot get off of social media. They are so addicted to it that literally 71% of people with cell phones or mobile phones, as you call them in Australasia, uh, actually take their mobile phones to bed with them. 71%. Now, this is extraordinary stress because if they don't get the like or the retweet or the heart or whatever that they're hoping for, that causes psychological stress. But just being exposed to constant bombardment of information, which so often is not pleasant information. It so often is not happy. It's stressful stuff. The people, the old saying about ignorance is bliss. Well, there's something to that for a lot of people, because if you're ignorant of something, well, you're not stressed out about it. But if you can't avoid the information on a 24-hour cycle, that's got to affect you psychologically. It just has to. So there is that. Uh, there are so many things that are now lowering our immune function. One of these, and you'll hear a lot about it this year, is the microbiome, how various chemicals are can potentially affect the health of our intestinal tract, and 70% of your immune system originates in your intestinal tract. If you adversely affect your microbiome, and this is really becoming a big deal. I predict we're going to hear a lot about this in 2020, just because of the numbers. I don't know your statistics in Australasia. I apologize that I don't. I can tell you in the United States, about 74% of Americans right now present with gastrointestinal related symptoms when they go to see their doctor. 74%. So the number's got to be fairly high, literally in every country, because we're all living on the same closed ecosystem. Earth is one ecosystem. And although you can make a case for, well, there's more pollution in China than there is in, oh, I don't know, pick a place, Costa Rica. And there's no question about that. But we're all part of the same ecosystem. We're all in an enclosed environment causing these stresses. And so we really do need to look after all aspects of our immune system in particular these days.
That's really important for people listening here going, I need my phone. Did you know that you can put it on airplane mode and your alarm clock still works? So there you go.
Yeah,
Dr. Nugent, well, it is. Our phones take over so many things now. We don't have alarm clocks, and people often tell me that. So
yeah.
I think it's a good thing to let people know. So what about, often we talk to people who say that, listen, and I'm actually around a community of people like this. I'm very dedicated to my diet. I eat really well. I eat organic. What's your advice to them around the need to supplement or not?
Yeah, I'm just really seeing more studies on this all the time. I started bringing this out actually before Manatech was even born, because I was doing monthly lectures on this for years. Because I was seeing in my practice, I was seeing people coming up deficient that reported to me when I did a diet analysis on each patient. How do you eat? What do you eat? When do you eat? That sort of thing. And I was saying that people who, by what they were eating, shouldn't have been coming up deficient, but were anyway. Um, I just give you an example. Right now, in the U.S., there are approximately 90% of American citizens who are deficient in at least one nutrient, and more than 70% are deficient in a variety of nutrients, and that's despite their diet. Now, when I look at individuals who are working very hard to eat a healthy diet, they're really trying, they're really watching their food, they're eating organic, they're trying to do everything right. And I remember when I was in practice, I still saw people who doing that came up deficient in maybe certain B vitamins or perhaps vitamin D, magnesium, very common deficiency. And oof, boy, you don't want to be deficient in magnesium. So, I mean, just so many things. I think everybody should be looking at making sure that they have a pretty potent vitamin mineral product that they take every day. They should do this religiously. And my personal choice has since 1999 been Catalyst, for all of the Manatech associates, and of course for myself. And of course, Manatech has had different vitamin mineral products over the years, and we still have two available in most markets. In some of the markets, we have three, but Catalyst is still my favorite choice because it's the most potent. And right now, for me, it's, don't take a chance I think that you should always go for the most potent supplement, particularly like in the case of Catalyst as an example. The areas that are quite high in that supplement are all water soluble. So really there's no risk, because if you get more, let's say vitamin B12 than you require that day, you'll simply rinse it out in your urine. So you can't be harmed in that respect. But I like to see everyone taking a glyconutrient complex as well. I think that those two things are going to be absolutely foundational. Now, I personally have been taking Ambertose Complex. I've been taking that one since, since we first batched it up in the lab back in 1995. Um, I will, depending on where I am, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I'm taking Ambertose Life, and sometimes I'm taking Ambertose Complex. But you know, those would be my choices. But you need to make sure that your systems are functioning correctly. That means accurate cellular communication, and that means you have to have the 8 glyconutrients necessary for cellular communication. Because let's face it, if I gave you the best vitamin C that the universe had ever seen, but you are missing the glycans. So glycan is a scientific term, glyconutrients the commercial term, okay? So if you are missing the glycans you need, that would tell your digestive tract, oh, by the way, vitamin C just arrived, and that vitamin C needs to go over to these cells for this purpose in this amount. If you don't have those steps of communication, it doesn't matter that you swallowed the vitamin C, you won't use it. So foundational to every aspect of your health, as far as I'm concerned, has got to be a glyconutrient complex. So either the original, some call it classic, some call it complex. So the original Ambertose complex or Ambertose Life, I think is, you know, one of those two would be my choice. And of course, with the vitamin mineral product, my personal choice is Catalyst because of its potency. All of you, of course, can make any choice you wish, but you know, my life is just so stressful. I generally work until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I get up and get into the office for endless meetings, endless meetings, and then of course the travel. These days, it's hazardous to your health to get on an aircraft. And I'm not talking about the aircraft failing and crashing. I'm talking about getting into an enclosed cabin with several hundred people for hours. You know, in the case of Dallas to Brisbane, 17 hours. Okay. And somebody on the plane has a contagious virus. Well, that's hazardous travel. You know, you're at risk there. So, and for me, I think that, you know, Immunostart is, oh gosh, Immunostart, what a great product that is. And most of our associates, Sharon, I don't know if you get this feedback, but most of our associates either don't know the product exists or they kind of forget about it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be flu season to be thinking about Immunostart. I mean, that's a product that you want to think about anytime that you think your immune system may be under challenge. And I'll tell you what, these days it feels like it's just about all the time that your immune system's under challenge. So, in fact, I just did a call for associates uh, in Vancouver who have friends and relatives in China, and they were asking me, should we send Immunostart to our friends and relatives in China? And of course, I told them, you know, you have to obey the rules, obey the law, make sure that you don't make claims that are beyond our label claims, because that's the law. And is it a good idea for everyone to have the healthiest possible immune system? The answer is absolutely yes. So that's pretty much the way I handled the question. Because I know that, you know, right now the big conversation globally, especially since I don't know if it was early. I lose track because I'm on calls at all hours of the day and night. So I don't remember if it was last night or if it was yesterday morning now that the World Health Organization said a global emergency with the coronavirus. But no matter when it was, there's a global emergency according to the World Health Organization. And if I may take a moment, I want to be a responsible healthcare practitioner, Sharon, for everyone listening. Because the incubation period of that virus is 14 days, and because people are symptom free during the 14 days, there's no way to screen for it. There's no way to know until symptoms start. So if you think that you're going to come in contact with somebody who has been in China or been in an area where there are known cases and they've been there within the last 14 days, please be safe. Please be safe. Don't have physical contact. Um, Make them a gift of a face mask and wash your hands frequently and stay a good distance, because we're not sure still if it's transmitted by aerosol, by breathing, from one person's breath to you kind of thing, or if it has to be actual fluid exchange, so such as somebody sneezes and you get a lot of fluid that comes out in a sneeze, or if it can be transmitted even by a handshake. There are some viruses that can actually be transmitted by a handshake. So we don't know that yet. So please, my friends, please be safe, and don't think, oh, this is foolish. No, please be safe, because with a 14-day symptom-free incubation period, this makes it's a whole new ball game. So please be safe on that. And I just wanted to do that little health announcement while we were talking here.
And as always, the most vulnerable are the people who are really sick for any kind of, viral anything that's going around. So, I just want to say something, because my kids are coming home terrified from school because there's all this talk and people are listening to the news. And I think there's a balance in it as well. If you're healthy and you're supporting your immune system and you take the actions Dr. Nugent just recommended, that's your best and safest mode right now. And I don't think people need to live in terror at the moment. To be honest.
No one does. And in fact, the data that's been gathered thus far, and I'm going to trust the data from the American Centers for Disease Control and the World Health Organization. So what we know so far is that it appears to only be lethal to people who have very weakened immune systems or people over the age of 60. It does not appear to be lethal to anyone, although there has been one case of a healthy young person who was in their 20s, but there can be any number of reasons, and I don't know if that person had an unhealthy immune system. I have no details on that. But it does not appear to be a major threat other than, upper respiratory infection and you work your way through it kind of thing. For people over 60, they should be cautious because we do have some data on that. But I don't think that your children need to be panicked. I don't think anyone needs to be panicked because there are some excellent precautions being taken by healthcare practitioners in most countries and government officials in most countries. So I'm not concerned about this becoming a pandemic. For those of you who don't know that word, so that's an epidemic that occurs around the world of the same contagion. Okay, so not to panic or anything. Just take care of your immune systems. Be safe. I mean, be sensible, and give yourself the best immune support that you can give every day.
So Dr. Nugent, you alluded to, you started to build on the foundation that you'd recommend. So you talked about nutritional glycans, about your gut support, about immune support with Immunistart, about catalysts, the importance of vitamins and minerals. So we have something that has been called, the Optimal Support Program for a long time. Can you just expand on that a little bit more before we go on to some more questions from the field?
Sure. The Optimal Support Program, of course, is foundationally based around ambertose, as I'd mentioned earlier. And folks, that needs to be your foundation for every aspect of your health, not just your immune system, but gut health, brain health. I mean, the list goes on, every aspect of your health. Then, of course, you need a vitamin mineral product. And depending on which countries that you're in, the different ones may be favored. I favor Catalyst, as I mentioned. Catalyst is a product that you have there in Australasia. Um, and you need to have an antioxidant product. And antioxidants help your body's immune system to fight the damage that's caused by air pollution, water pollution, toxins of various types, or what is more scientifically referred to as oxidative stress. And oxidative stress isn't just a problem for your immune system. Oxidative stress also accelerates the aging process. So the more oxidative stress you're exposed to, the faster you age, not just externally, so your skin and your hair and so on, but internally. So, I mean, true aging acceleration from oxidative stress. The more you have, the worse it gets. And you can really tell if you can look at a person who's been taking proper nutrition and proper antioxidants for years and compare them to someone who has not, and they're both the same age, and they're both the same gender, and they're both the same race, and so on, and you can see the difference almost every time. So it really, really is important. And I bring that up because, Sharon, I've always been amazed, my entire career, I've been amazed that some people will spend any amount of money to look good, but you can't talk them into spending money on their health. It's just astounding to me how, how some people think. And then, of course, the other product in the optimal health system is called Plus. Plus is our oldest product. It's our very first product that we made more than 25 years ago. And it still is one of the best-selling products in our entire inventory worldwide. It's always in the top 5 products, no matter what new product we have, no matter what exciting new product gets launched, it remains in the top 5 because it works. Because once a person starts on Plus, they never, ever, ever stop. It's just that good of a product. And what it does, in summary, what it does is it really helps to support the function of your glandular system and or endocrine system. So you're looking at hormones here. So Plus is not a hormone, but because it provides the basic nutrition so that your glands can produce their own hormones, and then you couple that with cellular communication from the glycans so that you now know what hormone to make, when to make that hormone, how much to make of that hormone, and when to shut off the manufacturing of that hormone. That's all about cellular communication, which is why those two products are fabulous together. So, Plus, I would say if I interviewed husband and wife teams globally, and I would, if I asked the husband, I said, which is the most important product? He would probably say Plus. And if I said, are you taking it? No. But if my wife doesn't have it, my life is miserable. So,
Well, I can tell you, in a family with 3 teens and preteens, we are going through bottles and bottles of Plus every month, and it
I'll bet you are. I'll bet
makes a
you are.
massive difference. We need to ask parents that question too. um, Dr. Nugent, so that's great advice. So Plus, anything else you want to add to that optimal health segment?
Yeah, I think omega-3, and in some countries, the country managers they want me to limit the conversation to 4 products. In Australasia, you're smarter down there, so you allow me to talk about 5 products, and I think that omega-3 is so crucially important to your health. Now, once again, I can't quote you a test from the 3 countries there in the Australasian market. What I can quote is data that's been done on human beings. And folks, human beings in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore are biologically the same as human beings in the United States. So I think it's okay for me to use the example. Um, so far, more than 70% of Americans who have been tested for omega-3 in their blood have come up short. Now, there was a study done in Denmark in a fishing village. Now, everyone knows, everyone knows their geography. Unless you're an American, then you don't know anything about geography. Most Americans don't know that there is a world outside of the United States, I think. I'm putting down my own countrymen, but it's so true. Um, I got to chuckle about that every time I come home from a trip. Um, uh, what we find out is that in this fishing village in Denmark, which of course is surrounded by water, they eat a tremendous amount of fish, tremendous amount of seafood there. And in this fishing village, they did a memory study. They recruited men who were above the age of 90, and it was a 5-year study. Now, understand, not everyone lived to the end of this study, but those who did, what the test was, let's find out how your memory functions when you're 90, and let's find out when it functions when you're 95. Now, what the two groups did, because this was a double-blind group, so one group has literally tripled their fish intake every day. The other group is taking omega-3. Now, the group that tripled their fish intake, they were taking placebos that didn't contain omega-3. So nobody knows who's doing what, except one group is eating a lot more fish. What they find out at the end of the test is the group that was taking the omega-3, and that omega-3 was not anywhere near the quality of ours, not even close to the quality of ours. The group that was taking the omega-3 supplements did much, much better on the memory test, even though they were now 95. And what that showed us is that omega-3 supplementation obviously was beneficial for memory function, but you need omega-3 for all kinds of things, not just memory. And it showed us something else. You see, omega-3 is sensitive to heat. Unless you're perhaps Japanese, you're probably going to cook your fish. And when you cook the fish, you actually break down the molecular structure of the omega-3. You damage that structure. Now, when we make our omega-3 product, we use no heat. Heat is commonly used because if you don't use heat or chemicals, the omega-3 is so thick that it tends to clog up the distillation devices that are used to take the toxins out of the oil, because all fish contain toxins now because they're swimming in our water that's got toxins in it. So we use no heat and we use no chemicals. We use enzymes to clean up the oil. And we offer the purest oil that you will find anywhere. I challenge any company to show me a purity profile on their oil that exceeds ours. I know we will win. I'm certain of it. So that's what I recommend. Those 5 products as for foundational health.
Dr. Nugent, you brought up some good topics there in that many of, well, you'll correct me, I know you'll correct me, where possible, we use food-based ingredients. And with what you've educated us on today about the challenge with getting clean food, how can people trust our technology in regards to the contaminants that are in the planet today?
Yeah, well, that's also a very, very good question. We've gotten to a time now where, originally I would have said to virtually everyone, stick to food-based stuff, and be sure not just that it's organically sourced. That's not enough. Everyone thinks that's fine. That's enough. That's not enough, because there is no possibility that you can keep pesticides from blowing over an organic farm in the wind and in the rain. You can't do it. Pesticides are found in the Antarctic. Pesticides are found at the North Pole. Obviously, there are no farms. So there is no way to ensure that even organic material doesn't contain chemical toxins. Plus, chemical toxins are now in so much of the water that they're going to get into the water table, they're going to get into the soil, etc. And so we want you to eat organic. I prefer that. That's my recommendation. But it's not a guarantee that the material is clean. So what do we do at Manatech? We do not just the standard, necessary, basic requirement that I'm pretty sure all the governments of the world, and I don't know the regs of every government. I only know of the 27 countries that we're in. but I'm pretty sure that all the countries probably require one one sampling test for contaminants, and that's when you begin your formulation process. But at Manitech, we do it several times, and we don't have to. We do it voluntarily, and of course it costs us more to do it, but we do it because we know that there's so much contaminant in our world today, and we also know that human beings sometimes make mistakes and machines sometimes go out of calibration. And so we do multiple levels of testing where we're testing for the same contaminants for parasites and various microbes that you might find in organic plant material. We're testing for chemicals and all these things. So we're testing these things over and over and over again. And then when we act, because we have our own safety lab as well, and we do independent testing that we send out at random on our batches. So when I say to people, every Manitech product is safety tested, this is not something that, oh, every 6 months we'll take a few tubs of Ambertose at random. No, no, no. Every single lot of every single product that we produce, we take samples from every lot and not test it once or even twice, but we will test it even 3 times to ensure that when this product gets to the consumer, that it is clean, that it is safe. And of course, our scientific studies prove that it is effective.
Fantastic. And we'll cover a few more frequently asked questions if it's okay. There's also often questions, around people that there's people with overactive immune systems and underactive immune systems. And in regards to our immune support technology, including Immunostart, do you have any advice?
Yeah, you are so fortunate in Australasia that you have Immunostart. As I've been talking to our Chinese associates in Greater China and Hong Kong and Macau, and they don't have Immunostart. And boy, do they want it bad right now. And they don't have it. And you are so fortunate that you do have it. And let me give everyone listening, I won't do a whole product training on it, although I'd love to in the future at some point. But let me give you a couple little pearls to think about with Immunostart. First of all, most people, when you say immune, they say Ambertose. It's like a psych test, right? Word association. The way it should work is this way. You should say immune, they should say Immunostart, because Immunostart is our specifically focused product for immune system. That's its purpose in life. Ambertose, yes, supports a healthy immune system and digestive system and brain function and memory, and the list goes on. Okay. But if you really want to be focused on immune support, the product is Immunostart. Now, I don't know, do you folks have Manaboom down there?
Yes, we do.
You do. All right. Manaboom is a good adjunct product. You can use it anytime you want, but let me tell you, folks, there is nothing out there like Immunostart. And here's one of the things I love about Immunostart. Right now, and this may surprise everybody to hear this, but there is a worldwide shortage of lactoferrin. In fact, lactoferrin, we have searched the world trying to buy this material. And what's happened is, as soon as the Greater China, the mainland China market realized that baby food could be much healthier if lactoferrin was added to baby food, and we're talking about a 1.4 billion population there, literally all the lactoferrin on the entire planet was purchased by companies in China. I mean, the whole darn planet. So why would lactoferrin be good? Well, because it contains IgG. And I'll explain IgG to everybody in a moment. Well, here's the cool thing. Our product also has a colostrum in it, which contains IgG. So maybe you can't buy lactoferrin right now unless you're a baby food company in China, because boy, they have cornered the market. I can't even conceive of the number of tons that they have contracted for in advance. It's hopeless for any of us to get it. But we have Immunostart, and we have a certified pure prime colostrum. That contains IgG because that contains lactoferrin. So IgG, why is it important? Now, Sharon, you probably know, but a lot of the people listening don't know. Your immune system is divided into a series of things called immunoglobulins. And so you have immunoglobulin A and immunoglobulin G, and the list goes on. Okay. Immunoglobulin G is the most important in all of your whole darn immune system. In fact, immunoglobulin G is found, it's really about 80% of all of the immunoglobulin in an entire body of a healthy human being. You'll find it in your tears. You'll find it in your intestinal tract. You'll find it in your blood. Anywhere where there's fluid, you'll find immunoglobulin G. What's so cool about this is that unlike other competing products, because there are other products out there, oh, we're the best colostrum, blah, 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 until you investigate them, you see they're really not. And they'll talk about immunoglobulin A. Well, that's nice, which takes care of one aspect of your immune needs. But immunoglobulin G is both antibacterial and antiviral. And it's the only one of the immunoglobulins that is. It's one of the reasons that I love Immunostart so much. It's just a great, great product. Now, I'm not going to do a whole training on Immunostart, but I just want everybody to know that, whether it's flu season or you're just looking for, the best possible immune support, the answer is Immunostart.
And there's a few questions about maniple, how to decide between